What's up YouTube? It's me, Jess, and I'm an opera singer. Today's video is Patron Pick of the Month, and for this month they have chosen Postmodern Jukebox featuring Effie Passero performing a cover of It Must Have Been Love by Roxette. Let's go.
Leave the winter on the ground. I wake up lonely, this air of silence in the bedroom and all around. Touch me now. I close my eyes and dream away. It must have been love, but it's over now. It must have been good, but I lost it somehow. It must have been love, but it's over now. The moment we touched, to the time it ran out. Make believing we're together, that I'm sheltered by your heart, but in and outside I turn to water like a teardrop in your palm, and it's a hard thing to say. I dream away. It must have been love, but it's over now. It was all that I wanted, now I'm living without. Oh, it must have been love, but it's over now. It's where the water flows, it's where the wind blows. It must have been love, but it's over now. It must have been good, but I lost it somehow. Oh, it must have been love, but it's over now. From the moment we touched to the time it ran out. Oh, it must have been love, but it's over now. It was all that I wanted, now I'm living without. Oh, it must have been love, but it's over now. It's where the water flows, it's where the wind blows. It must have been love, but it's over now.
Wow, that was so good. Okay, I have a confession to make. I don't know the original. It Must Have Been Love by Roxette. So much happening. First, we gotta look at the title. And the title says, It Must Have Been Love, a cover by Roxette, but in parentheses it says 60s wall of sound style cover. Now, we gotta look up what wall of sound is and what that sound sounds like so that we have some better understanding, not just of what we heard, but maybe even more understanding of the technicalities behind it. Okay, so I did a little bit of research and I learned that the wall of sound is a music and engineering technique coined and created by Phil Spector. Phil Spector is an American songwriter and producer, very popular in the 1960s. And I also found there is a video of him and I believe an engineer talking about the wall of sound and what it's supposed to sound like. So let's take a listen.
The wall of sound is a function of this studio. There's no doubt about it. The Studio A at Gold Star. The echo chambers never made the sound acceptable. They enhanced the sound, but the fact that the room was filled with musicians, and it is a small room, everything bounced off of, and we got all of this meshing going on, you know? And then you added the chambers to it, and so you got this sound that all became this wall. It was a room saturation. We had it all melded together in the room. And of course, there was one other ingredient that helped make it the wall of sound. A minor ingredient, but still meaningful. And that's Phil Spector. I mean, Phil made the wall of sound because, and of course I've thought of different reasons why, we would almost never roll tape for, under 3 hours into the session. All of that time would be spent with the musicians playing and Phil listening. And one of the theories that I've evolved is that the reason he did it so long was that he wanted the musicians to be tired so that they lost their individualism. And now what they played could be blended into this sound.
It could have been a ballad, and it would have sounded like, I met her on a Monday, and my heart stood still. The do run, 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 the do run, run.
I had no idea that this was a terminology, and I had no idea how much of an impact it had on the music industry, especially in the 60s. I believe his goal was to really make a full and rich sound, which yes, that does also equate to a loud sound, but there's more nuance to it when you're really thinking about the musical aspects of it, and then also when you take that a step further and think about the engineering aspects of it. Now, going back to PMJ, you can see the efforts they made in order to incorporate this wall of sound technique into this cover. First off, I've done a few videos by PMJ, and I think that this performance is the one with the biggest ensemble. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 people on stage. All right, so let's talk about the intro. When the song starts, we get this loud sound. We are definitely living in the forte range of dynamics. You get just about everyone participating in the beginning except for Effie, the main singer. Now the choir comes in, and the choir really does add this huge dimension to the overall sound. There's just something so phenomenal about adding the voice when you're talking about an ensemble. Now, I can't quite make out if they're supposed to be saying words in the very beginning. I know they eventually moved to just ah, but before that, I can't tell. So let us know down below if they're actually speaking lyrics. So looking at the section, we're in a loud dynamic and we've got just about everybody participating. This is when I start to think about the wall of sound and what Phil Spector is expecting when utilizing this technique. For me, it's a little hard to really wrap my head around the technique of wall of sound within this decade. I think because engineering has advanced so much since the 60s, the sound really is a lot crisper, and there's just so many different nuances that you can add to engineering that make the sound very different than the sound you would hear in the 60s. So I had to take a minute and really think about wall of sound. And for me, it was easier to understand when I broke it down into three main components that help me understand the definition and the process of wall of sound. The first component would be the atmosphere and the acoustics. And we saw that in the video with Phil Spector. He really talked about the acoustics and the area that all of the musicians were in and how the room played a big part in the ending result, the sound. I gotta look at that into effect here. The second component in wall of sound for me would be the ensemble, the people actually making the sound. And to me, that would include a lot of people, and also would include a, let's say, unique or a large variety of instruments. And I do believe we get that here considering the production. Then 3 would have to be the post-production, the engineering side of the entire song. How much the tweaking of the sound really makes a difference in what you hear as the final result. And so looking at those 3 different pieces really, I think, helps put the puzzle together in terms of this production. So first, looking at the atmosphere, we don't have the knowledge to know how much this atmosphere played a role in the acoustics and, let's say, the bouncing of sound within this performance. You can see there's drapery along the whole wall, which is stunning. It looks amazing. It is important to note, drapery, cloth, carpet absorbs sound like crazy. And so I do wonder how much that played a role in the overall quality of the sound when just listening to it before engineering came in and gave us this final sound we're hearing. Then we look at the second aspect, which is the ensemble. And I think they did a great job with the ensemble. They brought in a choir, there's a bass player, there's percussion, there's a quartet, there's a pianist. You just get this really nice variety of sound.
It must have been good, but I lost it somehow. Oh, it must have been love, but it's over now.
Then 3, we've got to look at engineering and consider that. Now, as I said before, engineering has come a long way since the 60s. Of course, sound quality has changed dramatically, and so that's going to be different. But given that we are in this decade and using modern and current engineering techniques, you get big sound, you get fullness, you get richness, and I think what's really important in this wall of sound technique is variety. You get variety in terms of tones, you get variety in terms of timbre, and that all comes down to the type of instrumentation you choose to incorporate in this style. Absolutely fantastic. So we get this big wall of sound technique in the beginning where Effie is not singing. It's all everyone else in the background. And we are in this forte dynamic. And then we get a transition and everything changes so dramatically. You hear a huge shift in dynamic switch, and we go from a very forte sound to a more mezzo piano sound.
Leave a whisper on my pillow.
What's great about this next section is it's the voice and it's the bass, and they sound fantastic together. So let's talk about the bass. The bass has a really funky, cool melodic line, and I love not only his melodic line but also the rhythm. So the rhythm for him, at least the first phrase, that's what I could catch, goes 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1.
Leave a whisper.
So you get sound from the bass on beat 1. He doesn't play anything for the first part of beat 2, but then moving forward for the rest of the measure, he plays not only on every beat, but the end of every beat, and then he lands also on the downbeat of the next bar. I love how he goes into the downbeat and then stops on beat 2, which is a weak beat, but then he comes on the even weaker part of beat 2, which is the end of beat 2, and then just runs forward all the way into the downbeat. I thought that paired with his groovy melody was just so nice. What is cool is to notice the last note of all of the phrases that he lands on. So the last notes of his phrases are C, A, D, G, and then he lands on C. So that sounds like 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. Very, very traditional. You'll hear that everywhere. Classic harmonic progression. Nothing crazy about it. What is groovy about it is what's happening in between. Oh, now let's talk about Miss Passero. Okay, when she comes in, I love how she runs with the transition. So the transition is pretty dynamic. We've gone from forte to mezzo piano. And I love how she sticks with that and keeps that dynamic quality within her tone. But her tone is still very present. It's round. It's got some brightness to it. And as a result, it's just very resonant. She has really, really great control of her mixed voice. If you can master your mixed voice, my God, does that make such a difference on the quality of sound and the way your sound is able to optimize resonance. It just reminds me of what good sound is supposed to sound like, and just thinking about it technically. What is sound literally and what is physically necessary in order to make sound possible. Silence, bedroom, all. That's the main things I remember. Let's look at the lyrics. Lay a whisper on my pillow, leave the winter on the ground. I wake up lonely, there's air of silence in the bedroom and all around. How sad. She delivers this entire first phrase perfectly. Listen to the way she sings the word ground.
Leave the winter on the ground.
I wake up lonely.
I wake up lonely.
There's air of silence.
This air of silence.
In the bedroom and all around.
In the bedroom and all around.
Just fantastic. In this first verse, I love the moments her vibrato really comes through. And I wrote this down. They're on the words whisper, ground, lonely, bedroom, and around. She does put a little bit of vibrato on some of the other words, but it's not as much at the forefront as it is on these words.
Leave a whisper on my pillow. Leave the winter on the ground. I wake up lonely. This air of silence in the bedroom and all around.
But with her, not only is it consistent, but she seems to have a great grasp on bringing dynamics along with her vibrato, which can be really, really, really hard if you don't know how to do that properly. Let's quickly talk about breathing. There is a moment where the sound dropped and it was Effie's time to come in. And during that quick moment of silence, you could hear her take in this really nice audible breath. Now there's a fine line between inhalation and the amount of sound inhalation can produce. I think that line will shift depending on the listener. This one, I loved how the inhalation was a real part of her technique and how she was going to sing the next line.
It must have been love, but it's over now. The moment we touched, to the time it ran out. Make believing.
I really liked that inhalation. I really admire the preparation before you go and sing. I think that has so much to do with vocal technique. So the line after this inhalation is make believing we're together. Now in the melody, there is a pause after the word believing and before the word we're. But in that pause, I don't hear an audible inhalation. And I absolutely love when singers do this technique. So the inhalation she took before, it was plenty of air to get her through this one line, make believing we're together. But how the melody is written, it's a drawn out melodic line.
Make believing we're together.
But what she does is, or at least what I hear she is doing, is she's not taking an inhalation during the pause. She's using the air that she took for the preparation of the phrase and using that for the entire phrase, but still using a pause in between this one line phrase, make believing we're together.
Make believing we're together.
I love that effect. I think it brings such drama to the line, and I think it actually is an indication of a new level of artistry when it comes to singing and even when it comes to acting. I do notice this in acting, especially when I'm watching TV shows, is how they inhale. So weird, but it is a necessary and vital technique that we as singers need to really understand in order to be able to sing a line properly. Okay, this girl's range is actually crazy. So there's a part where Effie comes in and it's after the short interlude and she sings the words, but it's over now. And the first syllable in the word over hits an F5. Note was so good. Her upper register it's just wild. It's exciting because I think it tells me a lot about her mixed voice. I can't explain enough how much of a solid mixed voice is necessary in order to have just a good overall sound. Your mixed voice is so important, I think, in all genres. You can just hear that she has more notes above that, which is great, and more notes above that with more chest voice and mixed voice. You guys, and the fact that she had to hit that note more than once and it was one right after another.
But it's over now. But it's over now. But it's over now. But it's over
Amazing in and of itself. This is a tiring song. I would love to hear her talk about vocal technique, and I specifically want to know what goes on in her head when it comes to mixed voice. Ooh, I think that would be such an interesting conversation. If you liked all that you saw, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and comment down below what piece by your favorite artist you would like me to do a performance analysis on. Lastly, make sure to check out the description box for ways you can keep in touch with me, get access to exclusive perks, and check out the Soprano Notes blog filled with tons of music educational topics. I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you soon. Bye!